Hello everyone, welcome back to Tips and Tricks. Well, this video is a documentary about the Commodore PET, the first personal computer which a person does need to assemble on their own. Let's begin. It all began in 1974 when Chuck Peddle and a group of engineers started up a chip fabrication company called Mars Technology. Most of these guys had worked at Motorola on their 6800 processor. So they set out to develop a compatible CPU known as the 6501. As you might imagine, Motorola sued them, and to make a long story short, the 6502 was born, which is pretty much the same chip, but a few changes were made here and there. Since the chip was no longer compatible with the 6800, customers would need some way to test the chip. In 1976, Chuck Peddle also designed the CIM-1 development computer. This was a single-board computer, much like the Apple I, that used the 6502 and could be programmed in machine language from the keypad on the top. The 6502 would go on to be a huge success and eventually found its way into the Apple II series, the Atari 2600, the Nintendo Entertainment System, the BBC Micro, the entire line of Atari 8-bit computers, and of course the entire line of Commodore 8-bit machines. But back to 1976 for a moment. Mars Technology was bought up by Commodore Business Machines, who at this point was primarily in the calculator business. Chuck Peddle convinced CBM owner Jack Tramiel to enter the computer business as calculators were a dead end in business. So Commodore introduced the Commodore PET. The PET. In 1977, the Commodore PET 2001 was born, using much of the same design as the CIM-1. Much like the Apple II, the PET was all-inclusive, having an integrated monitor, keyboard, and cassette tape storage device, while the Apple II required a disk drive as a separate purchase. 1977 was a big year for the personal computer revolution. With the market introduction of the big three, the Apple II, the Commodore PET, and the TRS-80 computer, it was the first time that a regular person could buy an affordable computer without having to assemble it themselves. The Commodore PET cost about $795 in 1977. The cool thing about the PET is that it was actually designed by the same guy who designed the 6502 processor. Okay, let's talk about RAM. You might think the PET came with a lot of RAM, but you would be wrong. The original PET came only with 4 kilobytes of RAM. Okay, so 4 kilobytes is a ridiculously small amount of RAM. But it's worse than that because the operating system actually needs at least 1 kilobyte of that, leaving about 3 kilobytes left over for the user. So how much is 3 kilobytes of RAM? Well, the screen on the PET is 40 characters by 25 lines, meaning you need 1000 bytes of RAM, or a kilobyte almost, to just show one screen full of text, meaning there was enough RAM to store 3 screens full of text. Okay, moving on to storage devices. Of course, the PET had a cassette, but Commodore also introduced a disk drive. So it wasn't until 1979 that Commodore came up with the matching disk drive. Since the PET was really never designed to use as a disk drive, they decided to use the IEEE 488 parallel port as a means to connect the disk drive. Unlike the Apple II, the Commodore PET had no card slots to insert a floppy disk controller card. So they had to design a whole new computer inside the disk drive. The PET doesn't control the floppy disks directly. Instead, it sends commands to the disk drive to fetch a file and it will send the information to the PET. Okay, moving on to graphics. There are also no graphics modes. I mean, like, literally none. There's no way to put graphics on this machine at all. And what's even worse, that the character set is in ROM, means it cannot be modified. So you're pretty much stuck to putting characters on the screen, and only the characters that can build into ROM, that's it. However, there are 256 characters using a special character set called PETASCII, or later just shortened to PETSCII. These can be used to create rudimentary graphics. Now let's talk about the sound in the PET, or the lack of sound on the PET. The PET also had no sound. I mean, it's literally none. There's no speaker and there's no other output anywhere. They had a speaker in the later PET, but the original model didn't have any sound. But the PET users figured out that using two pins on the user port, which connected to a handshake register on one of the I/O controllers, and it essentially worked as a one-voice square generator. It's quite a basic, with a beep or something. Then let's talk about some redesigns. Commodore redesigned the PET with more RAM, bigger display. For example, 4016, which basically means it has a 40-column display with 16 kilobytes of RAM. But they also had several different models in this numbering scheme, with the high-end models having 80 columns display and as much as 96K of RAM. The PET would later evolve into Commodore's CBM line of business computers. However, the 40-column PETs seem to have the most software available for them. And generally speaking, software designed for the 40 columns won't run on the 80 columns and vice versa. Okay, gaming on demos on the Commodore PET. Well, despite the limited graphics and sound capabilities, there are no shortage of games for the PET. For example, a game, Pesky Robots. And no pets allowed. This is a demo. So I guess that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching.